Welcome to another special test preview for the Reviewing Network Live. And I'm going to say right now, there's going to be more of these coming up over the next couple of weeks and months because we're getting closer to when I want to start doing this in September. And I will say by the end of the month, when I do my best and worst movies of 2023 so far, which will be at the end of the month, like I said, that will be when I will announce when the first official episode of the Reviewing Network Live will premiere in September. So be on the lookout for that. But like I said, there's going to be a lot more of these test videos coming out over the next couple of weeks and months. So definitely be on the lookout for that. And let's get to the subject at hand that I wanted to cover today. Because as of the time I'm recording this on June 9th, we are only a couple of weeks away from a brand new Indiana Jones movie. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Which I said before, I'm really looking forward to it. And I still am looking forward to it. I still think it looks like it could be a really fun adventure film. But over the last couple of weeks and months, we've been starting to see a lot of mixed bag reception to the film. It did not have the best start at Cannes. Disney decided to take it to the Cannes Film Festival, and it got polarizing reviews. It was a mixed bag. Nobody really said it was a bad movie, but they said it was a very underwhelming movie. I think the biggest... people praised Harrison Ford's performance in it and the film sense and nostalgia, but they also kind of felt that the franchise is running its course, and they've already started marketing this as the last film in the Indiana Jones series, which I think was going to happen regardless. I think that was something that they had already planned for, but you're definitely starting to hear a lot of mixed opinions coming out of that, and unfortunately, that's leading to a lot of criticisms from people that haven't even seen the movie yet. I've talked to people about the Rotten Tomatoes reviews for this, and a lot of people are kind of not really looking forward to this movie, but I'm still really looking forward to it. Not only that, but just that's a whole other subject altogether. The whole thing about how these is how I'm slowly but surely starting to turn away from Rotten Tomatoes because it's just not what it used to be. But again, that's for another time here. But regardless, I'm still looking forward to the film, but I was also noticing that Disney has not been really starting to promote this movie up until this week. Like, I've talked about it a little bit when I walk into the movie theater to see movies that I was hoping that one day we'd get to see an Indiana Jones trailer on the big screen. Ever since that first teaser trailer came out in December, not one preview for it has shown up at any of the movies I went to. It didn't show up in front of Avatar, didn't show up in front of Ant-Man, didn't show up in front of Guardians, didn't show up in front of The Little Mermaid. It's just like, I don't know if it is, I want to say, I hope that Disney is not trying to hide this movie, but then again, it could all just be really bad timing. I mean, bad timing for me to see these movies, because when I've walked around to the theater and there's other showings of this movie playing in the background, playing as I'm going to my theater, the trailer does play for specific Disney films, so I don't know. Maybe it's just that I'm not showing it up at the right screening for this, but I'm going to a Cinemark XD theater, and you think that you would want to show off the grand spectacle of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny on a big screen like a Cinemark XD screen. I mean, this is about as good as an IMAX screen, honestly, and they're not showing the trailer for it. I don't know why that is. Maybe tomorrow when I go see Transformers, maybe that'll change it around. But I'm also starting to notice that the promotional setup for Indiana Jones hasn't really been building up until most recently. It started with them announcing that Disney Plus was going to start putting the movies on there, as well as the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, and you didn't start to see anything on TV until just a few days ago during the NBA Finals, where they finally started to put commercials on TV for it. And it's just like, you guys are kind of starting a little late for this. For a big summer blockbuster like Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, that's the last movie I'm talking about, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, you guys are taking your sweet-ass time getting promos out there, getting the push out there for it. And I don't know why that is. Like Universal has been promoting stuff like the Super Mario Brothers movie and Strays and Fast X. They've been promoting these movies for months now. Disney themselves have been promoting stuff like Guardians of the Galaxy, The Little Mermaid. They were promoting that stuff for months and months in advance, but when it comes to the Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, it feels like Disney is kind of taking a backtrack because of what happened at Cannes, and I don't know. I don't think the buzz is there, unfortunately. I mean, it's still projected to be a hit, but I don't know. Like, I'm really afraid that this is gonna bomb. But I want it to be good. But I hope it doesn't bomb. I hope it's from what I've seen, it's kind of tracking in a similar fashion to something like No Time to Die, which I think made like 55, $60 million when it first came out a couple years ago. So I don't know, but they did say that it was mostly targeting to older audiences. So in a way, I guess maybe that kind of makes sense. But at the same time, you'd think Disney would put a bigger push on this for the first Indiana Jones movie in 15 years. But like I said, I'm really looking forward to seeing this regardless. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. I wanted to talk about what happened with the last Indiana Jones movie that came out, and Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. That one came out 15 years ago, and it was the first time in nearly 20 years we saw Indiana Jones on the big screen. And at the time it came out, they pushed it big time. Paramount pushed it big time. There was a huge marketing push. The trailers looked incredible. The buzz on it was coming out very strong. I mean, it went on to become one of the big hits of the year. Only the second highest grossing film of the year behind Iron Man. Or, no, I'm sorry, The Dark Knight. Is The Dark Knight. I think Iron Man was number 3, actually, but we see positive reviews from critics. In fact, that film premiered at the Cannes Film Festival. Is just 5 days before the movie came out. It is in that year, and the film did very well with critics. I mean, it got a 77% on Rotten Tomatoes. Is on Rotten Tomatoes back when Rotten Tomatoes actually meant something, but the audience reaction to it was not that strong, even though a lot of people really liked it in the beginning. But then as the summer went on, you started to hear the naysayers. You started to hear the people saying that, oh, here we go again. It's another Star Wars prequel film. And even South Park did an episode where they basically said that Spielberg and Lucas raped Indiana Jones, and everybody badmouths Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, that it has nothing of value to it, which that's what this particular video is going to be about. I think it's time that we finally we need to stop bad-mouthing Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. It's just that time to do that. Now, don't get me wrong. This is not the best of the Indiana Jones movies, but you know what? It's still better than something like Temple of Doom, and I'm going to delve into why I personally think that in just a little bit. But let's talk about those criticisms of the movie to start off. The criticisms for several things, including the overabundance of CG, which to me wasn't a big deal, honestly, when I saw it. And when I watched it again on TV recently and on Disney Plus, it didn't really bother me all that much. You had the pointless Shia LaBeouf role, where Shia LaBeouf plays the son of Indiana Jones, Mutt Williams. This was back when Shia LaBeouf had just come off of the jackpot of Disturbia, Transformers. They were setting him up to be the next big superstar, and I didn't mind him in the movie, honestly. I thought that he was there to kind of be, and I thought he could have been a pretty solid character had they given him more to do. And then, of course, there was nuking the fridge, and I mean, as much as I like that movie, it's a tough scene to defend. I mean, it makes sense for the time period. They were literally doing this in the time period with these different things, but just the way it's handled, and of all the crazy over-the-top things that have happened in other Indiana Jones movies, those got a free pass, but then this doesn't. I mean, I get it doesn't work as a whole, but in a way, it does kind of make sense for what they're trying to do. I mean, like I said, they did stuff like this back in the day. I mean, it didn't look as cartoonish as this, but I get what they were going at. I get what they were trying to do here, and I really like I said, you give the other things that happened in the other Indiana Jones movie a free pass, but this doesn't. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous thing to argue about, and I like this movie a lot. I like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull a lot. I think it's a better version. I think it's better than Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. I mean, yeah, I know I'm going to say it, but I'm sorry. Temple of Doom sucks. When it comes to Indiana Jones, is Temple of Doom's number 4 on that list, and this is just above it. I mean, then again, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull got a lot of backlash against it even before it was coming out. It was a couple things. First off, it had been 19 years since the last Indiana Jones movie. Nobody really thought a 4th Indiana Jones movie was necessary. I mean, yeah, I can see where they're coming from. The trilogy works on its own. It ends on probably the best note possible, but more importantly, George Lucas's name had become so menacing at that point after what he did to Star Wars with the prequels, to changing up the original films, and of course Greedo shot first. So there was no way a film like this was going to win an audience over that quickly. And of course, everybody was skeptical because honestly, I want to assure people that Crystal Skull is no Phantom Menace. Like, the fact that in the years since this movie has come out, everybody has all of a sudden turned it around and said, no, the prequels are amazing. The prequels are fantastic. The prequels are actually really good. Not like that sequel trilogy, even though, I'm sorry, another controversial thing here I'm going to say, I prefer the sequel trilogy over the prequels. Sorry, I mean, I just don't know what to tell you. I mean, I like Force Awakens and Last Jedi more than I do Phantom Menace or Attack of the Clones. And I said it before in my Galactic Star Cruiser video. It's interesting when you really look at it, because the prequels, Phantom Menace is not a good film, neither is Attack of the Clones, which is the worst Star Wars film. But Revenge of the Sith is the one that almost saves it, and then it pulls the rug out of you in the final 15 minutes of the film, which it still makes it's still a decent film, but it's not a great film overall. But like but then you have the opposite, where The Force Awakens was a really good Star Wars movie, and The Last Jedi, I think, was a great film, and I liked where they were going. But then the internet trolls came in and ruined it, and that's why The Rise of Skywalker ended up being the clustered mess that it was, because it felt like Disney had to calm the trolls down, but they really blew the opportunity to do what they wanted to do with that film. And going back to Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, it's not a perfect movie. Absolutely not. It has a ton of flaws, but to fully understand why this movie is not as bad as everyone says it is, let's just go ahead and look at the major complaints that everybody has with it. First off, let's delve into the overabundance of CG in the film. I mean, we've seen tons of movies before and after Indiana Jones 4 that have overused the CG, and really, Indiana Jones' 4 CG really didn't bother me that much, especially after Transformers did it the same year before. And just to prove that this movie has flaws, the most pointless scene of CG in the film is Shia LaBeouf swinging on vines with tons of monkeys moving around. Like, I'm pretty sure that Spielberg thought that there would be a cool-looking image, but it just comes off looking really silly, and that's the only real CG flaw that I saw with the film in particular. You know, when the aliens show up in their CG style at the end, I didn't think that was terrible. Yeah, they're generic aliens, and you would think that a guy that had success with E.T. and a studio, and George Lucas, who has had success making alien creations in Star Wars, you would expect more than just generic crap becoming more is generic aliens like this one. But but really, we've seen so many more generically crappy looking visual effects become more praiseworthy, but the aliens here don't get a free pass. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Which kind of leads into the next problem that everybody has with the movie, and that is the appearance of aliens. People were so mad that they had aliens in this, but when Watchmen came out under a year later and didn't have aliens, just like in the graphic novel, people were complaining about that they weren't in there. So, do we want aliens in these type of movies, or don't we? I mean, seriously, the subtitle of the movie is called Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, so obviously nobody looked at the title and actually did the research and assumed that aliens were going to be involved for this. I mean, this was a film that was originally supposed to be called Indiana Jones and the Saucer Men from Mars. I mean, maybe we needed to call it that, but then again, if you put Mars on anything on a movie, it's going to end up bombing at the box office. Mars Attacks, Mission to Mars, what was the other one? Mars Needs Moms. Like, movies with the name Mars in it just somehow don't do well at the box office, which is very interesting to me. But Crystal Skull literally are known for being extraterrestrials. I mean, there's a scene in the movie. Go back and look at the scene where Indy and Mutt are talking about God, where Mutt says that, God's head does not look like that, and Indy then goes, depends on who your God is. I mean, let that scene explain why this should not be a problem. This film is explaining that it's about a higher power, sort of like the religious elements in the other Indiana Jones movies, such as finding the Ark and Raiders and the Holy Grail in The Last Crusade. So it didn't ruin the flow for me that there were aliens in here. Like, it's an interesting concept. I just wish the aliens looked a lot better and they actually had more to do in here. That's probably my only complaint about that. But the fact that everyone went crazy because, aliens are in this movie, in this series, that does not make a whole lot of sense. It's just like, the film is saying it's about a higher power, sort of, like I said, about the religious elements in the other movies. And, that's one of those things that I never really had a problem with. Finally, everybody's biggest problem was that they thought both Steven Spielberg and George Lucas had no idea what they're doing. And people really forget that the Indiana Jones movies are supposed to be reminiscent of the old school B movies and action adventure serials of the 40s and 50s. I mean, those movies were not the best story wise. They were just there to be entertainment for a Saturday afternoon matinee. Like, this is back when the days when you got more than a movie. You got news reels, you got cartoons, you got commercials, you got all these different things that are taking place before the movie even starts, and that's a very different time period compared to now. I mean, it was clear from the very beginning that both Lucas and Spielberg wanted to make a fun action adventure film that wasn't seen that was just like the other three films were. I think the thing is that with the other three films, though, they took on another level of their own, bringing a modern flair to these old serial style adventure films, and I think that's exactly what Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was trying to do. Even if the emotional impact or some of the more memorable moments of this film aren't on the same level as something like the other Indiana Jones movies. I mean, that's my personal take on it. And that episode of South Park I mentioned earlier, where they're talking about how George Lucas and Steven Spielberg raped Indiana Jones. Like, I love South Park, but man, that's one of those episodes that I just refuse to watch ever again. If it ever comes on Comedy Central, I'm just switching the channel, because I just have no interest in watching that one again, because it's not as funny as the last time they made fun of Steven Spielberg and George Lucas, and that was when they did the Free Hat episode. That episode is brilliant, and I will watch that every single time, because it makes fun of something that's happened back then in a funny way. Like, Steven Spielberg took his most beloved film, E.T., and he butchered it. Like, he really ruined it, and he's regretted it ever since. Like, that 20th anniversary re-release, that's a fascinating topic on its own right, but we'll tackle that on another time. But the fact that he went back and looked at that and said, oh wow, I made a horrible mistake on this, I never want to do that again. And ever since then, every single Blu-ray release and re-release of the film has been the original release, the original cut of the film, with the visual effects fixed up a little bit, but nowhere near as bad as they were when that version of E.T. came out. But that was funny on South Park when they did that. When they did it with this time around, it just felt like they were just milking the joke over and over again, and it wasn't funny. It was not clever at all. Like, I expect a lot better from Trey Parker and Matt Stone, but honestly, when I saw that episode the first time, I was just kind of like, wow, you guys are really digging into this, and this is not usually the smart satirical comedy that I expect from South Park. I mean, it's just, like I said, it's an episode I don't usually watch very often. I don't think I've watched it ever since it first aired, honestly. And like I said, every time it comes on TV, I'm just kind of like, yep, changing the channel. No interest in this movie whatsoever. Episode, I should say. But let's go to the positives of the movie, because there are positives. It's always fun to see Harrison Ford once again playing Indiana Jones. The shots in this movie are still very nicely done. This is a different cinematographer than the previous Indiana Jones films. This is Janusz Kaminski, who of course started working with Spielberg when he did Schindler's List, and he's been working with him ever since. And he brings a new level to these great scenes in the film. Like, the first time we ever see Indiana Jones, and they show the shadow of him grabbing his hat. Like, that's a cool scene to start off with, and it is fun to see him back in that role. And it is fun to see him working with Karen Allen again for the first time since Raiders of the Lost Ark, even though her presence in this movie is kind of pointless, but it works fine for what it is. I think most of the acting overall here is good. Cate Blanchett is a fun, over-the-top villain in this. I like Shia LaBeouf in here playing Mutt Williams, even though it was clear they were trying to make him the next Indiana Jones, and it's not a bad idea per se. I think maybe it could have worked if they'd gotten another chance and they just let Mutt Williams be Mutt Williams and not try to start off a new. It's like, you could continue the story with him in there if you wanted to, but I can see why people kind of backed away from that. You got John Hurt in here and Jim Broadbent. They're good in here as well. Ray Winstone is okay, although I will say that his character, I mean, he's not that memorable of a character. He's that character that he's supposed to be the partner of Indiana Jones, but he's going to double-cross him. But not only does he have to double-cross him, he has to, like, quadruple-cross him. Is at multiple levels, because he always keeps showing up, and one time he'll be like, oh, I'm working with you guys now, and then by the end of the movie, he's just like, I was never working for you the whole time. I decided to trick you for it, which, I mean, it could be. I mean, you could have a lot of fun with that particular concept, but not the way that they did it in here. And also, sometimes there's moments where it kind of drags a little bit. Like the third act of the movie, I think is the strongest part of the film. Seeing them actually get to the temple and finding the alien ships. That's a fun scene to watch. All the obstacles they have to go through. It kind of starts off on a mediocre note because they have these they have these sequences where they have to go down through 3 different waterfalls, and each time, like, you're going down a waterfall, it should be epic, it should be grand, but I don't think it really works as well as I think they wanted it to. I think it's because the music kind of shuts down. Like, there should be some grand John Williams music on this particular segment, but when you don't have it there and you just have quiet while you have all these characters going down the waterfalls and screaming at the same time, it just doesn't have that same effect really. Like, you needed John Williams to come in and do a little bit of the score in that film, but on that particular segment, I should say. But you know, but other than that, though, this is still a very fun adventure film. I do like the way that this follows in the pulpy tone of the original films. The score overall is very good. The cast overall is very good. The action sequences are a ton of fun. Yeah, it has a lot of flaws to it. It's not my favorite Indiana Jones movie. If I had to really rank all the Indiana Jones movies, I would say that number 1 is Last Crusade. Last Crusade is a movie that I've really grown to appreciate more and more over the years. I think it has slightly surpassed Raiders of the Lost Ark for me, just for some of the shots, some of the music, the way they set scenes up in this. It's just a great movie, and for me personally, that's probably my favorite movie of the series. Raiders of the Lost Ark would be second, close second. I mean, not much more I need to say about that one. That was a movie that kind of rejuvenated the adventure blockbuster film, especially the 1980s blockbuster film. I'd probably put Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is definitely the third. Like I said before, it's not my favorite Indiana Jones movie, but it really does not deserve all the hate it gets. It's a fun action-adventure film with the same quick wit and action-packed energy that the original films had, with the sense that everybody on board was having fun with the project. I mean, there are flaws that could have been fixed up easily, but again, I would rather watch this more than The Temple of Doom, which is still my least favorite film in the Indiana Jones series. And it's mostly because of Short Round and Kate Capshaw's character, who I'm blanking on right now. Willie, that's Kate Capshaw's character. And it's obviously why. Like, Willie does never shut up. Like, she will not stop screaming, and it gets so annoying so quickly. Like, I have no investment in this character whatsoever. And I've seen Kate Capshaw be good in several other movies. I've seen her be good in a lot of movies. You know, Space Camp, Black Rain, How to Make an American Quilt. I thought she was pretty good in. The Quick and I'm thinking of something else. Power from 1986. There's been a lot of good movies she's been in, so it's not her fault. It was just a badly written character. And you could say the same thing about Ke Huy Quan. I mean, the guy just won an Academy Award for Everything Everywhere All at Once. The fact that he transformed himself from Short Round to becoming is an Oscar-winning actor is amazing, and he's proven to be a great actor too. He was in the Goonies. In Goonies, he played Data, and he was very good in that movie. And then he just kind of went away for a little bit, and then eventually he came back with Everything Everywhere All at Once, and like I said, he won an Academy Award for it, and a well-deserved Academy Award for it. So it's not his fault that the movie is bad. It's not his fault that the movie is bad. Just the character as a whole isn't that great. But even as I say that, I still like a lot of elements in Temple of Doom. There's still a lot of fun you can have with this movie. The darker elements are fun to see. The climax on the bridge is still great. There's still a lot of really good moments all throughout the film, but it's still the one I really don't like going back to every time I watch these movies over again. I mean, it's not a bad movie. It's not a bad movie, but just those elements with Kate Capshaw and Ke Huy Quan's characters really don't work out so well. And it really hurts the film in the end. And that's why I say that Temple of Doom is the worst of the 4 Indiana Jones movies. Like, it's still not a bad movie per se, but it's just the one that I watch the least, or look forward to watching the least. So, yeah, the bottom line, I wanted to cover this because we've got a new movie coming out, and I'm sure it's going to have the same after effect as something like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which I really hope it doesn't, because I hope Dial of Destiny actually turns out to be a pretty fun movie. I don't want it to be, if it's a great grand finale for this character, I'll be happy for that, but I'll still take it if it's still a fun adventure film. If they haven't lost the touch of what the Indiana Jones movies are all about. Plus, people need to remember that this is the first Indiana Jones movie that is not directed by Steven Spielberg. In fact, I don't even know if he's actually a producer on it or anything. Let me see. Because I know his name is not on here. I know Kathleen Kennedy and Frank Marshall, who have been with the series since the very beginning, are on there. But I'm just trying to see right here. I don't think his name is on here anymore. Or which, if it is, it'd be pretty interesting to see. I'm looking at the credits right now, so sorry for the dead air here. Well, he's still listed as an executive producer, as is George Lucas, but that really doesn't mean a whole lot, honestly. The executive producer really is just the guy that writes the check, but I mean, this is a movie that's being directed by James Mangold. James Mangold has more than proven to be a solid director over the course of his career. I mean, he's made a lot of great movies. I mean, we just talked, when we get to time about the movies, because I'm in 1997 as of the time I'm doing this, we're going to get into Copland, which is a fantastic film. He did Girl Interrupted. He did Identity. He did Walk the Line, 3:10 to Yuma. I even like Night and Day, The Wolverine, Logan, Ford versus Ferrari. I mean, this is a guy that is a really solid freaking director. He's never made a really terrible movie as far as I'm concerned, but I want to see what he can do with it. I want to see what he can bring to this. I want to see what a new vision for this character really is like in this world that they've built. I want to see what they can bring to the table here, and that's why I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. So, like I said, I'm really looking forward to seeing this film, and I wish people can go back. I want people to go back and look at how good look at Kingdom of the Crystal Skull and actually see that it is a fun adventure film. It's still a really solid movie. It's a film that, yeah, it's not the best of the Indiana Jones movies, but it's still not the worst one. I mean, this is still a really fun, enjoyable movie that I still go back to every time, and I still get a lot of fun out of it. I was really excited to check it out again on Disney Plus to see if it holds up, and it still does. I mean, I think it unfairly gets put in the same category as something like The Phantom Menace or The Last Jedi, or not even The Last Jedi, Attack of the Clones, like the prequels, because that film came out less than 10 years after the prequels let everybody down, and I really don't think it deserves that kind of a criticism. I mean, there are things to talk about that are bad, that are clearly bad, but at the same time, there's still a lot more that I enjoy here than in Temple of Doom, and that's really what I wanted to make the argument here for, But yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to cover on this particular episode. I think people, bottom line, give Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull a chance. Like, if you go into it, if you go into it with the same expectations, that you're expecting something that's on the same level as the original trilogy, then I think you might be disappointed by it, but this is still a lot better than the prequels. Like, this is still a lot, but I would rather watch this than Phantom Menace or Attack of the Clones any day of the week. I'd still watch this. I'd even still watch this over Rise of Skywalker, even though I still kind of enjoyed that one, but I know it's not a good film overall. I still enjoy this one a lot. I still enjoy Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I was glad I got a chance to watch it again to see that it's still held up, at least for me. And I hope that somehow this gets into, people can go into it watching it and see it in new eyes, see it in a new way that hasn't been seen before. And hopefully they'll find a way to end the series on a good note with Dial of Destiny coming up. So, let me know your thoughts down below. I want to know what you think of the Indiana Jones series, what you think of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Do you agree with me that it does not deserve the bad press bad attention that's gotten over the last couple of years? Do you think that it actually is a worthy film? Let me know down below, and if you want to see some more of these videos that I've done, go ahead and check out the playlist here, and with that said, that's going to do it. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. So until then, take care.